Hello everyone, thank you very much for clicking on the video and taking the time to watch me discussing this weekend's events that transpired as Liverpool faced Arsenal in the Premier League at Anfield. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe if you do enjoy the content and want to see more from me. Thank you so much for the support that you have displayed in recent weeks. We've gained 184 subscribers, which is genuinely amazing. I'd imagine half of you, as this is an Arsenal-based channel, are Arsenal fans, so please be sure to let me know what your thoughts are on the team and Arsenal as a whole for the beginning of this season. I just wanted to discuss something that is key in sort of the build-up to the game and how the game has been described both online on social media and by Sky Sports, because I feel that the mainstream media and the pundits such as Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, even Roy Keane to an extent, Peter Schmeichel, are completely and utterly wrong on their thoughts on the football game. And it just doesn't seem, from what I saw in the game, how the match seemingly transpired, in my opinion, and the actions I saw from both teams, to translate which is fair to what is fair criticism after the game. Now, ultimately, Arsenal came out as the losers. That is what history will state. The result does mean a lot because at the end of the day, Liverpool in a title sort of clash came out with the 3 points. And the reason for that is purely down to an elite piece of free kick set piece specialty from Dominik Szoboszlai, who was by far the best player on the pitch, was by far man of the match. And I feel that if you try and reason the game away with any other reason for the result, then you are doing a disservice to what is truly a world-class free kick. So let's firstly put the respect on Dominik Szoboszlai's name. Unbelievable set piece. It's basically unsavable off the post. Genuinely sensational bit of skill. And to have that in your arsenal, to be able to sort of unlock a defence for a set piece, such as a free kick, we've seen it done with our own player, Declan Rice, last year against Real Madrid twice. It is sensational. At the end of the day, that skill cannot be taught. It is natural ability, and Dominik Szoboszlai was by far the best player on the pitch in that regard. But what I wanted to say is, aside from that moment of magic, I'd say Liverpool respected us more going into the game and the way the game transpired than any other team they have played at Anfield that I remember in a long time. They sat back, they didn't bomb on their fullbacks as they have done in recent weeks in Kirkes, and Szoboszlai wasn't really an overlapping fullback, was he? But when they played Frimpong, so they looked a lot stronger at the back. That support really helped out Konate because he didn't find himself as isolated as often as he would. And the small sample size of times when he was isolated one-on-one, he was usually on against Martinelli, who had arguably the worst game he has ever played for Arsenal. But what I'm trying to say is neither team really looked to play risky football, and neither team aggressively played the game in a way that they could then effectively score a lot of goals or create a lot of goal-scoring actions. If you look at the statistics, Arsenal actually had more passes into the opposition box, had more touches in the opposition box, had more XG, had more shots, granted less on target. They only managed one on target. And overall slightly edged the field tilt. That said, again, you've got to caveat this. Liverpool got the 3 points. That is ultimately all that matters. But whilst I believe that we were not outplayed in this game, ultimately that doesn't matter. They got the result. But what we can take away from it is that why are the media expecting Arsenal to be the ones to go to Anfield, a place that Pep Guardiola's only won once in the Premier League, stadium-wise, and he's obviously won four Premier League titles in the time he's been at City, maybe more. Why is it up to Arsenal to go to Anfield and absolutely batter them in a stadium that people don't batter Liverpool? I don't know if they've even lost at Anfield. They might have done it at the back end of last year, but before that it must have been 2 years since they've lost at Anfield. It's not a stadium you go to and just batter Liverpool. And we did make them look not average at all. It was a very high, intense game from both parties, but we kept a stalemate there for a long period of the game. I don't think that many teams, if any, would. I don't think any of the best teams in the world would go to Anfield and take the game to them and absolutely destroy them, because Liverpool simply have a too good a manager for that to happen, too much atmosphere and intensity in the ground, and too good a team for that to happen. They are the favourites for the league for the reason. They're the title holders for a reason. So why is it expected that the media think that Arsenal should have gone and battered them? I believe, personally, Arsenal should have got a draw out the game, but again, that would take away from the moment of magic that Dominik Szoboszlai managed to muster, and that's fine. At the end of the day, Arne Slot said it best at the end of the game, saying that if you play that match 10 times, one time Arsenal win, one time Liverpool win, the other 8 times is a draw. And that is my thoughts on the match. So when you've got an elite coach such as Arne Slot stating that fact, who actually is the Liverpool manager, and you've got Arteta basically stating it in his press conference as well, why do people like Gary Neville think they're going to push this agenda against Arsenal to say, oh, they weren't good enough, when simply put, both teams were at a very level playing field in that game. Ultimately, Arsenal didn't get the 3 points. Ultimately, at the end of the season, if we lose by 3 points and don't beat them at the Emirates, then you could say that is the reason. But equally, it's the third game of the season. Let's not overreact. And let's just see the game for what it is. It was a very even contest where 2 of the best teams in the world were going at it. And they weren't going at it like hammer and tongue, back and back, like a boxing match. They were going at it with sort of a chess move each time. I thought that the game could have gone over either way. And I think it's a disservice to both teams to say anything different to that. And it's definitely playing down Szoboszlai's individual brilliance that decided the game if you try and put reasons in front of it. I am glad that the game wasn't decided by a VAR decision, and ultimately Liverpool played well defensively, were resolute, didn't create too much going forward. Salah wasn't really in the game at all, but they got the fine margin of an amazing free kick coming off the post. That's just what it is. But we're ignoring each side's preference. Could you say Arteta could have been a bit more positive? I think we had the hands that were dealt. He clearly didn't feel that Eze was ready to start within our pressing structure to play in the number 10 with Ødegaard with his shoulder injury. Ødegaard was obviously injured going into the game. And Marino was someone who he'd called upon many a time in the past who scored important goals for us, e.g. against Real Madrid. So I would argue in Arteta's mind, Marino's a more attacking player, so he felt that that wasn't very conservative approach. But equally, you know what you get in Mourinho, he's going to win you duels. He was poor, he did keep spinning like a Beyblade, and he didn't necessarily do the right things in the relevant actions that we needed him to. He didn't take that sort of risk that we needed in that position. But ultimately, with the injuries Arsenal had going into it, we had to choose a lineup. And if you look at the first half, I don't think the lineup actually went very badly. We weren't 1-0 down. We weren't being dominated. In fact, we probably had more of the ball and more of the chances. Other players who were poor, other than Beyblade Marino, probably Martinelli. It was probably, as I said, the worst game I've seen against him. He just doesn't look in confidence at the moment, which is such a shame because I think he's such a talented player and I'd like to see him getting back to his best. And Gyökeres, I mean, he was so isolated throughout the whole game. I mean, you know I didn't rate him when he signed. I didn't think he was the right striker for Arsenal Football Club. Now I don't think he's still the right striker for Arsenal Football Club. Only time will tell. He did well against Leeds, who are a lesser opposition. He might be a player who just bullies the lower league players, and then Havertz needs to come in for those big games. Obviously, Kai isn't available at the moment, which is such a shame, but maybe that's how it works. We never know. But the game did show his limitations on his touch, on his hold-up play. He didn't read the Ødegaard magnificent little through ball he did from Ødegaard on the right side. He dinked it in, and Gyökeres was second to react behind Konate. So they're the negatives. We have to take them on the chin, so to speak, and we have to move on. If you look at the positives, one positive I want to say is Madueke. He looks extremely sharp, and I'm not as concerned about Saka's injury now because I think that he will be a handful for any defender that comes up against him. He was our only real outlet in terms of attacking performance. He's the only attacker we had that looked like he could do anything, and I thought he was phenomenal. Zubimendi, I thought he played really well when we were trying to play through the back line. Thought he was good on the ball. You could always lay it off to him and he'd give it to someone else quickly. And Mascara, Obviously, Saliba got injured very early on. Mosquera came in and he didn't really put a foot wrong. I mean, you can't blame him for the goal. I thought he was solid. We did avoid him when playing out from the back. We tried to not give him the ball as much as possible because I don't think he's necessarily the calmest on the ball, but he did look solid defensively. He bodied their attackers quite well. I thought he had a solid debut. But it's a performance that we can build on, though. It's not all negative like we're seeing on social media. It's not all negative in general. Liverpool are a good side. Liverpool with Isak are an even better side. Liverpool are the favourites for the league. They spent £450 million. A 1-0 defeat at Anfield away from home isn't the end of the day. They will drop points this season, especially because they have defensive frailties. We've seen that in the games against Palace. We've seen that against Bournemouth. We've seen that against Newcastle. Yes, we could have come at them, but we didn't. And that's just that. But you look at their actual defensive ability. They've got Konate, who now might have an injury. We believe it's just cramp. As well as that, they brought that new centre half in. They've got Joe Gomez, whose injury record is pretty poor. I don't know if he went to AC Milan. I'm pretty certain he didn't in the end. And they didn't manage to get Mark Gahey. Now, will Mark Gahey go in January? Maybe he does. But what I'm trying to say is you've seen how poor Liverpool have been defensively at the start of the season, excluding the Arsenal game. They will drop points this season. Will they drop enough for us? Maybe not. But one thing that Arsenal have done is they put themselves in the best position that if Liverpool do drop off, to be continually there or thereabouts. You look at City. City have not been at the races this season. They've been pretty poor at the start of the season. They just lost 2-1 to Brighton, obviously. They still have to click as a team. Reinders looks good, obviously. Rodri looks okay. I mean, he's not fully fit. But there's something missing at City at the moment, especially defensively. Kushinov does not look like he's in the best form. Chelsea look like they could be challenging for the title, but I don't know whether they'll be able to withstand a whole title push until the sort of May months because they're such an inexperienced outlet. Arsenal have added depth and quality. We've got Kai and Gyökeres up front. We've got Saka, Madueke on the right, Trossard, Eze, Martinelli on the left. You've got in attacking midfield Ødegaard or Eze or Dalman or Nwaneri. You've got in the midfield Declan Rice, Marino, Norgard, Zubimendi, the list goes on. Defensively, I think we got the best depth in the league when you look at Skelly, Calafiori, or Gabriel and Hincapié on the left-hand side, or you've got on the right-hand side Saliba, and then Mosquera, who look very good. You've got Timber and White, who arguably have a claim to be the best two right-backs in the Premier League, and that is just at Arsenal. Now, I know Arsenal's strength is defensive and not offensive, but these players like Eze, Madueke have been brought in to be a bit more creative, add that spark that Arsenal are missing offensively. And they've also got David Raya and Kepa, very good depth. What I'm saying is Arsenal's depth, I think, is the best in the league. I'm not sure their attack is still, but we have looked to try and implement players that can help us in the transition. Gyökeres, very good at running behind. Madueke, very quick. And also creation, Eberici Eze. So, what I'm trying to say is we look like we are primed for a title challenge, especially no matter what injuries sort of come at us. The only sort of failure point I think that Arsenal necessarily have is with regards to Martin Ødegaard. If he goes down injured, I really struggle to see who's at the ability, creative-wise, to play that role. Eberici Eze is a great player, but he's not the same type of creative 10. He's more of a dribbler. Same can be said for Nwaneri even. They're both on-the-ball players, whereas Ødegaard is a bouncer. He likes to put a ball round the corner for a player, as we saw with the Gyökeres pass against Liverpool. But that's my thoughts, personally, on the game, on the situation at the moment. The title isn't over. The title challenge will continue. We might have a chance of getting the league. I don't think we're favourites, don't get me wrong, but let's be reasonable about the expectations. Let's be reasonable about the thoughts on the game, because at the moment the media seem to be pushing a narrative that simply isn't true on reflection of that game. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you do enjoy today's video. If you're a fan of football or Arsenal, do please subscribe to the channel for more from me, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.